Hello! Welcome to GP Podcast. Today, we are diving into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi script. We're talking about a secret project deep inside OpenAI. And it's not about just another AI model. No, this is about building a physical device that could completely change how we interact with technology itself.
But let's get one thing straight right from the jump. This is not about OpenAI trying to launch some cool new gadget. This is a massive, high-stakes strategic play that's born from a really deep-seated fear. It's a plot for survival in a world totally controlled by tech giants, and it all revolves around one very mysterious device.
So let's get into it. Part 1, a mysterious new device. At the very center of this whole strategy is a piece of hardware that, officially, doesn't even exist yet. But, thanks to some internal sources, we actually know a surprising amount about what it is and, maybe more importantly, what it isn't. So what in the world is OpenAI building in secret? Well, it's definitely not what you'd think. It's not a new phone, it's not a smartwatch, it's something else entirely. Okay, so here's what we've heard. Internally, the code name for this thing is Gumdrop, and its whole design philosophy is, well, it's fascinating. It's small, it's pen-shaped, and here's the kicker, it is intentionally screenless. Your main way of interacting with it is your voice and a camera. There's even a rumor that one of its core features is transcribing your handwritten notes straight into ChatGPT, which kind of hints at its real purpose. To just seamlessly capture information when pulling out your phone would feel awkward or clunky.
And this is no small side project because of who they brought on board. We're talking about Jony Ive, the legendary designer behind pretty much every iconic Apple product. OpenAI reportedly bought his entire startup for a mind-blowing $6.5 billion in stock. I mean, that is a massive, massive commitment. It tells you they are dead serious about getting this right.
Their ambition for scale is also super clear from who they chose to build it. They've partnered with Foxconn, yep, the same company that builds iPhones, and they've moved production over to Vietnam. This is a smart move, right? It dodges some of the geopolitical drama with China, and it shows they're treating this device like critical infrastructure, not just another gadget. They are planning for gigantic, long-term volume here.
So that's the what. But the real story, the much more interesting part, is the why. And this brings us to part 2, the gatekeeper problem. To really get why a software company would risk everything to get into hardware, you have to understand this one core vulnerability they have.
And look, this isn't just speculation. This is a direct quote from OpenAI's head of ChatGPT, Nick Turley, and he said it under oath during Google's big antitrust trial. He straight up admitted they are deeply worried about being locked out by the very companies whose platforms they need to survive. This is their #1 existential threat.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. It shows the incredible power imbalance. On one side, you have OpenAI, who are, let's be honest, basically just an app living inside an ecosystem owned by their biggest rivals. And on the other side, you have Apple and Google. They control the operating systems, the app stores, and the default assistants like Siri and Gemini. They could, theoretically, flip a switch and just cut OpenAI off completely.
So when you're faced with a threat like that, you don't just sit around and hope for the best. You make a bold countermove, and that's part 3. This Gumdrop device, it's not just a product. It's the physical tip of a much bigger strategic spear, and it's aimed at bypassing those gatekeepers for good.
It seems like they're borrowing a page right out of Amazon's old playbook, what we call the Kindle Strategy. Step 1 is simple. Get the hardware into as many hands as humanly possible. This creates a direct connection to the user that nobody else can turn off. And then step 2, use that direct connection to turn people into long-term paying subscribers for the entire ChatGPT ecosystem. The device itself, it might not even need to be profitable.
But the hardware is really only half the battle, right? On the software side, to make a voice-first device actually work, the AI has to feel natural. It has to feel real. So OpenAI is reportedly just pouring resources into a new audio architecture that allows the AI to speak while the user is still talking. The goal is to move away from those clunky, turn-based commands and get to something that feels like a genuine conversation.
But this is about so much more than just playing defense or launching a single device. When you start to connect all these dots, a much larger, way more ambitious picture starts to form. This is about total AI dominance.
$850 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the valuation OpenAI is reportedly seeking in new funding. And to justify that kind of number, you need a plan for growth that goes way, way beyond just selling software subscriptions. You need a plan to own the entire platform.
And that plan seems to include some massive potential acquisitions. There have been reports naming Pinterest as a possible target. And you might think, why Pinterest? Well, think about it. It offers a huge user base, a gigantic data set of images with high purchase intent, and a ready-made advertising business. All things OpenAI could just supercharge with its AI.
But the most audacious goal of them all? Google Chrome. Remember Nick Turley from earlier? In that same court testimony, he admitted that if regulators ever force Google to sell off Chrome, OpenAI would be interested in buying it. I mean, can you imagine? Owning the world's main gateway to the internet would instantly solve their distribution problem overnight.
Now, before we get too carried away with all this, we have to ground these huge ambitions in a pretty harsh reality. The path that OpenAI is choosing to walk is, well, it's littered with recent, very public, very expensive failures.
Welcome to the AI hardware graveyard. You remember the Humane AI pen? Total disaster. It was discontinued in less than a year. And the Rabbit R1? After all that initial hype, engagement just completely collapsed. These failures prove one thing really clearly. Getting people to adopt a whole new device is incredibly difficult. OpenAI can't just be good. They have to be absolutely perfect.
And that brings us to what might be the single biggest obstacle of all. The one thing that could kill this entire project before it even launches. It's not the technology, and it's not the competition. It's trust. People have already started calling this type of device a reality scraper, an always-on sensor that's just collecting audio, context, and all kinds of personal data to feed back into the AI models. Now, whether that's the intention or not, the perception of it creates a massive privacy nightmare.
And let's be perfectly clear on this. Without absolute, unbreakable user trust, this device is dead on arrival. I'm talking about features like a physical mute switch, clear visual indicators showing when it's recording, and transparent data logs. These aren't just nice-to-haves. They are existential necessities for this thing to even have a chance.
Which really brings us to the final question, and it's one for you to think about. OpenAI is betting hundreds of billions of dollars that the convenience of a device like this will outweigh all the concerns. But the real question is, will you actually let an always-on, screenless AI into the most private moments of your life?
So, what's your take? Is this the future? Or is it a privacy disaster waiting to happen? I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you liked the video, subscribe, leave a like, comment on what you liked most, and share the video. It makes a huge difference. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.